I'm locked up. They won't let me out. Locked up.
More often than not, Rule 105.12 is used as a different means of censorship. Come on, gang activities going on all the time. I mean, you got certain individuals who are involved in certain gangs that, you know, they do their little greetings in front of these COs and they don't say anything. Technically, that's a violation of Rule 105.12. They really wanted to enforce that rule in order to eliminate the so-called gang activity. Then they're not really doing a very good job at it, because it's not all that hard to identify who's who and who's what. See, but now when it comes down to the literature or things that are written on material, they go crazy over that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what type of operational culture they have, but it's kind of bizarre to me.
Violations: 105.12 unauthorized organizational materials, 113.23 contraband not listed. Of the articles confiscated were the yellow pages of the Verizon telephone book. Also reviewed was an envelope addressed to this inmate from MIM distributors. Also reviewed was a letter that was being sent out by
the plaintiff to his brother in another prison.
In this letter were contents related to a Maoist internationalist movement. I had these items reviewed by media review, to which I was informed that they were not allowed, as they had not been approved, as they are an unauthorized organization which has not been approved. You also charge them with 105.12 unauthorized organizational material and related to a publication called the Maoist Internationalist Movement.
That's correct.
Okay. Your report, you also state that you had them reviewed by media review. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what was the outcome of that review?
It was outcome of that review by media review was that it was a non-allowable item. It was an authorized organization.
Okay. Now, is anything from that publication disallowed, or is it just particular issues?
No, it was in general from that organization. It's not a recognized organization, from what I was informed.
Okay, and you were informed by?
The media review.
Well, what can you tell me about this?
Okay. I got a copy of Maoist International Movement, the MIM distributor letter, in the mail, to the mail room. They didn't send it to media review or anything like that, so I assumed that it was allowed. When I read this, the directive 4, it says, publications which discuss different political philosophies and those dealing with criticism of governmental and departmental authority are acceptable as reading material, provided they do not violate the above guidelines. For example, publications such as Fortune News, The Militant, La Torch, The Workers' World, and Revolutionary Worker shall generally be approved unless matter in a specific issue has been found to violate the above guidelines. My brother sent me a letter from Elmira. He's in reception there. And if you know anything about reception, it's very important. I figured since he was bored, maybe I would send him something for him to read over there. I had absolutely no clue that it wasn't allowed in this facility, or that it was a problem. And when I read the directive, it showed that it shouldn't have been a problem. When I sent the letter to my brother, the envelope was open, and so the mailroom didn't tell me then that it was a problem either.
113.23 contraband, how do you plead?
I'm not guilty.
And 105.12 unauthorized organizations?
Not guilty.
Another charge of 113.23 contraband, I do find you guilty. Another charge of 105.12 unauthorized organization, I find you not guilty. Penalty imposed. Credit you with 7 days of pre-hearing 2 confinement from 2/13, release date of today. I am suspending a sentence of 30 days keep lock package, commissary and phone. It'll be hanging over your head like probation for 90 days. If you catch a ticket from a tier 2 to a tier 3 within those 90 days, whoever does the hearing can impose that along with anything else.
I got a whole bunch of misbehavior reports, you know what I'm saying, for organizing, you know what I mean? And it's just for me having this material, they consider this material, you know what I'm saying, unauthorized organizational material, meaning that if it's not pertaining to an organization that's sanctioned within the Department of Correction is considered an unauthorized organization. So that's contraband. You're going to get penalized for that. You know what I mean? In other words, if it's not a NAACP material, if it's not JC material, if it's not Quakers material, you know what I mean? You know, you're going to get penalized for it.
Theo Mahuta sees a new African Black Panther pamphlet right on my bed. When I come back from chow, pulls me over, has me locked in the shower on the other side of the gallery for maybe 2 hours so that he can get authorization to go search my cell. Finally, he decides to search my cell. He got the authorization he needs. He handcuffs me, brings me in front of the cell, and sits me there and proceeds to go through all my materials. Every Black Panther material, anything related to revolution, anything related to MEM, anything. He also took false internationalism and false nationalism. That disappeared. He took one of my pamphlets called Organization Means Commitment, but that disappeared. He took some of my notes. A lot of this stuff just disappeared. Now, the material that he actually included in his misbehavior report was just the Black Panther material, and I think one of the publications from the Black Brigade, which was the Leviathan. He took one of those and said that this was an unauthorized organization, etc. I go to the hearing. The assistant industry superintendent, Clinton at the time, he was like completely an idiot. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. He really didn't understand the applicability of Rule 105.12. Although I was explaining to him, he was listening. He was like, I see what you're saying, but let's send it to media review and let's see what they say. Media review says, the BLA material, the Black Panther material is unauthorized and you can't have it. I said, well, what you're claiming doesn't fit the standards that are in the media review directive. It doesn't say anything about material that's unauthorized. All it says is that if the material doesn't advocate means of escape, codes, if it doesn't advocate, lawlessness or violence against authority, etc., these type of things, as long as it's not lewd, but you can receive things like the revolutionary worker or the militant. It says that these are exceptions. You can receive this material, they just have to pass the scrutiny of the media review. He really didn't know what he was doing, and of course, whomever these guys were who sat on the media review committee, these people were biased themselves. So they were just parroting what Theo Mahuta had wrote in his ticket. So the guy said, well, look, I'm not going to go against these people, but I really think you're right. He tells me this off the record, I think you're right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you 15 days. You get off tomorrow. So he gave me a place. From that point, I went to Southport, Clinton. Wow. It's like a long road, this Rule 105.12 crap for me. And pretty much the literature I've had has always been politically oriented, one, hasn't been inflammatory, two, has always spoken against, gang activity and violence, but still in all, I'm still targeted. At that time, the administration was really against it. They were really against trying to have any inmate organizations for the betterment of the guys that were there. So I had to file grievances and I had to write several complaints in order for them to approve the organization. And finally it got approved, and they wouldn't give us a locker so that we could have our materials in. They wouldn't give us a classroom, so I had to agitate for that. They wouldn't do a lot of different things that we were supposed to be entitled to. One thing about guys who are trying to organize, no matter if it's negative or positive, especially when it's positive, they don't make no distinction. Their thing is they're just anti-inmate organization, period, whether or not it's legitimate or not. They fear it for whatever reason.
In July 2008, as part of the settlements in Shekor versus Selsky and Mitchell versus Gord, the New York Department of Correctional Services repealed Rule 105.12 and replaced it with two new rules. While separating illegal gang activities from unauthorized organizational activity, the new rules only further established the ability to punish and restrict prisoners.
I think from a reactionary standpoint, I can understand it, but I don't come from that standpoint. I can understand what they're saying because it is a threat to their so-called domination. Even if you have a politically oriented, positive, constructive organization who are making strides and trying to get guys to do better, be better, know better, you're going to find that becomes a threat to them, because now we got guys doing the right thing and they start getting out and they start doing things that are good in the street and they don't come back. That really impacts upon their livelihood. They need guys to commit crimes in order for them to come into these facilities and maintain this machinery. This is the reason why this whole type of system is operational. But if we got individuals who are coming from prison, who are coming out here educated, have become real politically oriented, and really started going in the streets and educating and organizing the youth out there in order to prevent them from committing crimes, in order to prevent them from coming into these facilities, then they wouldn't have any base in order to erect these institutions and keep them funded.
The most alarming part of the new Media Review Directive is the proposed note added to Section 712.2I. It is basically outlawing the organizing of prisoners, and by extension the communication of prisoners with organizations, since that would be considered facilitating organizational activity. They explicitly state that the organization does not have to advocate violence or disobedience to substantiate a rule violation.
Color chain link with your brother like in the hull of the slave ship. I let my bandana drip for the blood in my vein. For every crip we all one and the same. The daily struggle is the common bond we have. The police is the Slav and the crab, the mob with a badge. They hate to see a squad of soldiers gang up. How the bishops, disciples, and cobras came up. We turning this game up on you wimp ass busters on the system. You got to be a pimp.
As we understand it, the system is going to work out its own means of maintaining the class position of those who are in power. We do live in an imperialism capitalist system, so of course all the different mechanisms they put in place is going to help augment and bolster that particular relationship. So whether or not it's conscious or not, it's a fact, it's a reality. So those of us like myself who are organizers, who try to do things that are positive and constructive, especially when it's political in any sense, we're targeted for whatever reason. Maybe an officer may look upon us as being, he might get intimidated, or maybe our influence amongst the population becomes a little bit too strong, and then individuals start to feel that, okay, if he wanted to, he can have a riot gun, he can probably have an officer, stabbed or whatever the case may be. So this is what they're looking at it, but they may not understand that the bigger picture is that they actually are protecting their imperialist system, which creates the oppressive conditions that would cause for the oppressed masses to want to retaliate in such a way.
The denial of prisoners' First Amendment rights to assembly and affiliation will likely become more widespread under the new rules. This poses a serious threat to an already highly vulnerable population who must struggle to get outside recognition and support. The clear outcome will be an increase in abuse without punishment. The ironic part is that this will create a much more violent and dangerous situation within the facilities, whereas allowing participation in organizations is a proven method to support effective rehabilitation.
Respect to the OGs, cause that's your history, the Sonny Carsons, Bunchy Carters and Slausons, revolutionaries but G'd in proportion, from the seed to the coffin, putting in work, paying dues for the cause, staying true to the law. This shit is